As you can probably tell by the screen today, I'm going to be talking about how to build an automated business selling your advice and information. And I'm really excited to be here. I work in like kind of niche marketing, so I have a pen name and stuff. I'm a bit of an underground marketer, so I don't really talk about this stuff. I just kind of wanted to do something different, meet some people, and kind of hopefully help some people out as well. If I'm going to go into like step-by-step stuff in terms of how I built the business and in terms of how you can help grow your own business and or perhaps optimize a business if you already have one. But I think to start off with, what would be a good idea is if I told my story a little bit. I know how much I dislike being in a full-time job, but I also know how difficult it can be if you're in a full-time work and you kind of want to get out of it and you want to start your own business, but it feels like maybe that's not even possible. Or perhaps if you run your own business and you're so caught up in the work of the business that you couldn't possibly envision being able to take 3 or 4 weeks, let alone a week off, then hopefully again this my story and what I've got to share will help you. Okay, so the story kind of starts off with my first job, which is my first full-time job. No, I absolutely hated it. I basically didn't like the idea of the fact that I had to go to work every day in order to pay the bills. I just didn't like that attitude. I didn't like the fact that no matter how hard I worked, no matter what I did, I'd still get the same paycheck at the end of the month. And yeah, in the long term, you can definitely work your way up and get a much bigger return. But at the time, that frustrated me. So yeah, I got a bit annoyed. So I was meant to do 12 months, did 8 months, and then went traveling. And then I went to university. And at university, it was kind of when I discovered I call it like a new world. The 4-Hour Work Week came out. I read that, which I got really into. I got really into like Tony Robbins stuff. Who here knows Tony Robbins or has gone for any of his stuff? Yeah. Say aye. Yes. Good. Yeah. So if you haven't got into his stuff, I recommend you definitely do get his personal power program or Get the Edge. It's just awesome. I've probably listened to it at least 20 plus times, probably 100 times. Think and Grow Rich, another kind of book you just have to read. And basically all this stuff that I started reading kind of took me from, like my parents have always worked in full-time jobs and that kind of stuff. It took me from that attitude to thinking, oh, maybe I can do my own thing. Maybe I can, can run my own business. And that was kind of the stepping stone. So if you haven't got this is just a small sample of the books out there. But if you're at the very early stages, you've got to start getting into the books and products just to kind of get your mind in the right place so that you can step out, depending on what stage you're at. Okay, so then at university, I decided I wanted to make some money, and I started downloading all those cheesy make money online books and programs and that kind of stuff. And I started doing a bunch of stuff because I really wanted to make some money, but most of it just didn't work. I kind of spent a lot of time, wasted some money. Most of it didn't really work. But then, oh, by the way, does anyone here not know what affiliate marketing is, just out of interest? Oh, okay, that's cool. I won't over-explaining it. Well, just in case anyone didn't put their hand up just because they didn't want to. Affiliate marketing is basically when you promote someone else's product or you send visitors through a special tracking link, and then as a result of sending people to another person's site, you'll get a commission, and if they actually end up buying, you'll get a commission for it. So I did that. So I started promoting other people's products, and eventually, after a while, a few of them failed, but I kept testing different products, different approaches, eventually found one that worked. And this is kind of where my first kind of 80-20 experience kind of happened, which is, does everyone here know what the 80-20 principle is? It's basically the idea that 80% of results come from, typically, if you do analysis of the kind of work you're doing or what your business is doing or that kind of stuff, typically 80% of the results you're getting will come from about 20% of the actual input, the actual work that you're doing. So I kind of looked at the business that I was running at the time, the affiliate marketing stuff, and thought, oh, if I can create my own product, then I can get more of the commission because I won't have to split the commission with the vendor. So I started making my own product, and from there, pretty much went on to kind of build the business that I have today. So now that's my kind of backstory, moving on to the steps to building an automated business selling your own information and knowledge. Okay, these are the 5 steps. This is kind of exactly how you go about it. I'm going to break down each step in detail for you here. Step number 1, pick a market, find what needs aren't being met, create a product that meets that need, get people to your product, and then scale and automate. That summarizes everything. If I was forced to condense everything into a nutshell, that would be it. All right, so when it comes to picking a market, it's really important. This is like a big mistake that a lot of people make. When they want to start a business, they try and think of a really cool product and something that they really enjoy, and then they go, oh, now I need to find some people to buy this really cool thing that I've made. When that's fine if you want to do it from like an artistic point of view, but if you're looking to make money, then you have to remember that it's other people are only going to give you money for stuff that they want to pay for. So you've got to start from the perspective of you've got to pick a market. You've got to pick, something that people are proven to want to spend money on. And so the best way I like to think about it is to pick a market that pick a market that exists, but pick one that you're interested in. So that's a little bit of a different way of approaching, I'm really interested in this thing and I'm going to try and sell it. Find markets that are already proven where people are already buying stuff, find one that you like and get involved in that market. And then you need to find what needs aren't being met. And so this all comes down to, I think the biggest thing in business, to success in business, is all about empathy. It's all about thinking from the other person's point of view. And it works in terms of product creation, in terms of traffic generation, in terms of building your team, in terms of stuff that I probably can't think of right now, but just about anything. Your success with it comes down from understanding the other person's point of view. When you're presenting an idea, when you're creating a pitch, when you're creating a product, all that kind of stuff, that's the kind of fundamental key to success. And so you want to look within a market, what problems are people having that aren't currently being solved by any products? And then the other flip side of that is what is something that people want in a market and where is that not being provided? And this actually kind of this doesn't just count for information products. This pretty much counts for any kind of successful product. And so you can apply this kind of thinking to things like Google when they first started. People were looking for a nice, simple way to organize information. It wasn't there. And so they found a need and fulfilled it. Same with stuff like Dropbox. People wanting to store things online in an easy, simple way. They went and set up. And so this kind of applies to any kind of level you want to set a business up at. I'm sorry, I might not be able to see the slides on that side. Yeah, and then as soon as you start focusing on the outcome, then that's when you can start charging more money for stuff. Because, and I was chatting about this just earlier, the reason, like, for example, an ebook on like a novel won't sell for as much as like some of my products that are kind of like men's health stuff for specific outcomes, they're like ebook packages, and they'll sell for 30, 40 pounds. And the reason people are willing to pay that is because it's not because people want books, audios, ebooks, or videos. It's because they want the result that getting that product will deliver to them. And so whenever you're specifically for information products, whenever you're creating an information product, again, it comes down to empathy. Think about the outcome of the person, what the outcome is for the person that is going to be buying that product, and weave it into your entire product, because that's what they're paying the money for. And so an example of this, which is another example of kind of identifying a need that hasn't been met and creating a product for it. So this right here is a screenshot from Clickbank.com. And Clickbank.com is a digital information product marketplace. So they specialize in ebooks and that kind of stuff. And this is actually who I work with. And you can post your own information products on there. So you have to create your own website, but they manage the payment. And there's a bunch of affiliates on there. So there's a bunch of people that will come and promote your product, assuming that you have a good product, you have good conversion rates, and it's worthwhile for them. So it's a good network. And what makes it really good is that you can do really good quality market research. So if you're into information products, I highly recommend that I think you now have to have an account to view the market, but it's free to set up an account. And you can go into the market. And so for example, here, I went to the health and fitness market, and you can kind of see the kind of volume that you can't exactly see, but like, for example, Fat Loss Factor there, that is the top seller, currently the top ranked product on Clickbank for health and fitness, and the gravity is 336. And gravity is basically their kind of complicated way of saying within the last month, at least 336 different people have successfully sold that product. And so that's, coming back to finding a market that you know already exists. That's how you do it. You kind of you can already tell that this is selling. And then here's the interesting part. Because I've been kind of monitoring this for a while now, because this is kind of what I do. only very recently has there been a successful product on cellulite reduction. And this is a perfect example where someone's come along and they've noticed that there are needs that aren't being met, and they've created a product addressing those needs specifically. Because I imagine plenty of women that want to reduce cellulite, and this is ultimately something that would be covered by fat loss. Fat loss, if you lose fat, will get rid of cellulite. However, what they've done is they've identified the fact that there are women that are thinking, all right, I've got cellulite, how do I get rid of it? And they've created a product specifically for that need, rather than trying to kind of incorporate it into something else. So that's an approach, an idea of finding needs that aren't being met and creating a product that specifically addresses it. And also, going back to that, sometimes you don't just have to create a brand new product. Sometimes you might notice there's just a different way of marketing a product. So for example, there was a product on Clickbank there was products that were already selling on Clickbank. We noticed none of them were using video sales letters. So I found a partner, created a product with him that now markets a similar product that already exists. Because we're using a video sales letter, it means that our conversions are higher, which means affiliates are more likely to promote us because we can make them more money. Okay, so next step, create a product that meets that need. And this is actually, once you've gone through the marketing research process, this is actually the simplest bit. It's just one of those things that people get hung up on psychologically because they think, because if you've never made a product before, you're going to be a little bit, I don't know what's going on here, is this going to work, that kind of stuff. And it's natural to kind of have those hesitancies, but what you've got to realize that it's natural to have those things and just do it anyway, because it's really not that big a deal. And so when it comes to creating a product, the first thing I can recommend is you model others. So if you want to enter a market, buy a few of the other products in that market, see what their sales process is, see what their conversion process is, and then look at their product, read through the whole of their product, assuming that you're going to be the person to make it. Then read through all of it, and then, this is what I did for my first product. I read through a bunch of different products, and then once I got that, I had enough information to then, with my own just general experience, write my own product that was independent of other products. And then again, just as a general tip, when you're creating an information product, assuming you're creating it yourself, or if you're not creating it yourself, you need to remind other people of this, you've got to stay focused on that outcome for your customer. Like every product you make, you've got to just, I think it's ideal if a product has one specific outcome for a customer. So like that cellulite product, for example, it wasn't trying to say, it wasn't generic weight loss. It was, we're going to get rid of your cellulite. Or perhaps, and there's also another successful one called The Truth About Abs, which specifically helps guys get abs. And it's a very specific outcome. And so as you're creating the product, you want to remain focused on that throughout the product, because that's why they bought it in the first place. They didn't, like I said, they didn't buy it for the fluff. They didn't buy it for the kind of, just so they can have some more MP3s on their hard drive. They bought it so that they can get the result that they came for. And that also means that you don't need to pack out your product with fluff. So like some of my ebooks that sell for like 30 plus pounds, they're like 15,000 words, and that's not a traditional book are generally significantly larger than that. But because I'm not selling like a volume, I'm selling an outcome, people are happy to pay that if I can demonstrate to them that as a result of buying the product, they're going to get this result that to them is worth much more than the money they pay for it. So yeah, like I said, just don't get overwhelmed by it. And if you want to pay someone else, you'll be surprised how easy it is to outsource this stuff. It depends on the level of expertise required. If it's more specialized, you might need to do a joint venture deal with them, or you might need to pay them more money. If it's a proven expert, you'll again have to pay them more money. Whereas if it's, like for example, I'm getting a hypnotist to create another product that has the same outcome as some of my other products, but because it's a different method to getting to the same outcome, I can create an additional product. And the lady that I've got, that we've just today agreed to do it, is, she's done 500 hours worth of hypnosis. She's a certified hypnosis person, and it's going to cost me $200. And the product, I'll probably sell it for about $40. And so I need to sell 5 to make the money back, and then I'm hoping that I'll sell significantly more of that, and then I can sell it over and over again. So, it depends, but paying someone else to do it is a very viable solution. Okay, so then the next step, I was having a conversation about this earlier as well, actually, which is that I personally recommend if you're creating information products that you have your own site. And the reason why is because if you have your own site, it puts you in control. So if you build your site on places like, say you build a really awesome YouTube channel, or you build really awesome podcast, or you say you have a really good Amazon store or something like that, then things, if that company changes, if one of those companies that you're dependent on shifts, that could be your whole business wiped out. So like say you have a really good podcast and iTunes decides to change its ranking system and it could completely wipe you out. And so basically what I like to do is I like to build my own site for a product that sells a product, host the payment, or find someone like Clickbank who host it for you. But I have the product myself. And then if one of the sites that I'm advertising on, say I'm advertising on YouTube or something like that, if that goes down, that's not an issue because I've still got my site. I can just advertise elsewhere. And what you also want to do on your site, assuming you're looking to sell a high-price information product, is you want to use it as an opportunity to educate people as to why they want your product. So for some of my information products, there's 20 to 30 minute long videos before they even have the opportunity to buy. And that's the reason. And the reason for that is because I need to convince people that it's worth their money. I need to demonstrate to them why I'm a credible person to buy from, why we're credible people to buy from, why the product's going to work. Show testimonials, demonstrate the guarantee, show proof, all that kind of stuff. And it's a lot more difficult to do that if you don't have your own site. So I recommend you do that. Again, it's one of those things that seems overwhelming, but it's not as difficult if you just kind of go ahead and do it. Like a good combination for information products, I haven't written this up here, but is WordPress and Optimized Press. WordPress is a content management system, and that basically means that it's something you kind of attach to a website, which makes it easier to edit the information on it. And then Optimized Press is something that makes it really easy to make more sales-based websites. So when you're, like I like to write sales letters to educate people as to why my product is going to help them, it's great for doing that because it's all got kind of templates built in for it. So that's Optimized Press and WordPress, if you didn't catch that. And this is where you do have to do a bit of studying. If you're going to sell information products, you have to learn copywriting, basically. Either you have to learn it, either you've got to learn it very well, or you've got to superficially learn it and then find someone else to do the copywriting for you. Because copywriting is the process of everything I've just talked about, which is being able to get someone's attention, get their interest, and then there's actually an acronym for this: attention, interest, desire, action, ADA. And you've got to guide them through the whole process. So you've got to tell them your story, build credibility, show proof. It helps if the more proof you have in terms of yourself, perhaps third-party publications or testimonials, and then if you can offer risk reversal, which I've put in at the bottom, which basically means an interesting thing to think about is whenever you're buying something for the first time from a person you don't know, there's always that kind of sense of hesitancy when you're about to buy and you're not 100% sure. What risk reversal does is it kind of says to them, you're going to get, this is what I offer with my products, a 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee, no questions asked. So if you're not happy for any reason, just let us know and you'll get all your money back. That takes that person that's not sure from, oh, well, I've got nothing to lose. If I don't like it, I can just ask for my money back. And yet you will get a certain amount of refunds because of it, because people will, some people, first of all, you can't please everyone. And secondly, some people will just take advantage of you. But from a strategic business point of view, the way I see it is I'm going to get more net customers by offering a guarantee than by not offering a guarantee. All right, so then traffic, which is the kind of thing that everyone wants to know. How do you do it? Okay, so the way I see it, there are only 4 ways to get traffic. And there's a lot of kind of fancy terms wrapped around traffic that like a lot of the gurus and stuff use to just try and kind of make you to want to get to know their secret method. But it pretty much comes down to this is the only 4 ways, besides like knocking on doors and like maybe direct phone calls. This is the only way that you can generate traffic. And number 1 is content marketing. And so that would be what I would describe as something like this. If I was to be selling something, I'm providing content right now and it's not costing me anything. It's the same with blog posts, same with YouTube videos, same with podcasts. any of that kind of stuff, I'll say guest posts or getting interviewed by someone or perhaps an interview for a magazine, all that stuff I classify as content marketing. And so that's the kind of broader stroke. In terms of specifics of going about content marketing, I mean, I recommend picking a few and becoming a master at a few rather than trying to do everything. But you can get pretty deep into all the different traffic getting methods. And if you want to ask me questions, you can later at the end of the thing about this. So the other way is paid advertising. So that's like Google ads, banner ads. Recently, I've started experimenting with classified ads in magazines. You can also buy like solo ads in people's email lists. So the kind of people that have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, you can buy ads in their you can write like short little ads in their newsletters to get traffic. And then you've got joint ventures. So affiliates is a type of joint venture. It basically means you share the revenue when if you own the product, you're tapping into someone else's database and you're saying, this is the product that I have, this is how much we will make if we work together. And it helps if you have like track record and say, this is how much people have made in the past. So this is what I estimate you'll make. That's joint ventures. And again, so this is another example of when empathy is an important factor. So when you're going to approach joint venture partners, think from the perspective of the partner that you're approaching. Think about all the questions they're going to ask. If they have a large database and you're looking to have your product marketed to them, they're going to be thinking, first of all, is this going to make me look like an idiot promoting this? Is this guy actually going to deliver on his promises? Is this guy legit? Like, what's his credibility? And then how much money am I going to make specifically? And they're going to want proof, especially if you don't already have an existing relationship. And then on top of that, the next step is to actually start building relationships. So if you meet someone a few times and you kind of feel them out, you're much more likely to do a deal with them than if you haven't done that. And so think from the other person's perspective when you're trying to set these things up, because they can be very profitable. Like in our company, we do a lot of business from affiliates on Clickbank, because there are people that just get really good at certain types of traffic generation. They become so good at it that rather than creating their own products, they just spend all their time mastering that traffic generation method, and they just want to find products to send their traffic to that they've got that can make them money. So like as a product developer, you become a specialist in conversion, and then traffic people, some affiliates become experts in that. And then finally, this is probably the most underutilized thing for any business owner, and that's remarketing to existing customers and subscribers. Like I'd say that about 30% of our bottom line comes from just recontacting our existing subscribers. And so you've got to be building an email list. So start capturing information depending on what you're offering, and you've got to be capturing customer contact details if you're selling. If you're selling a product yourself rather than being an affiliate, you've got to capture that information and you've got to maintain a relationship. So contact them on a regular basis. Even if you want to, it depends on your scale, but you want to be sending regular stuff, because 3 months down the line, after someone's bought from you and you email them out of the blue, they're not going to be wanting to buy anything. Whereas if you've been sending them content and also within that content positioning yourself as someone worthy of spending large amounts of money to work with, then it can be a very, very profitable thing to do. Okay, so then the final step is to scale and automate. And first thing you need to do is optimize. And this is like a general rule for business that you just don't stop doing. It just carries on all the time. And so here's an example of how it works. Okay, the way I generally see business, I break up the online information businesses: traffic, conversion, and customer value. And so, for example, with traffic, how can you optimize your traffic? Say you're running a pay-per-click campaign. Can you test your headlines? Can you test the body copy of your ads? Can you test the URL of your ads? Can you add more keywords to your campaign? Can you take keywords out? Can you track which specific keywords and how much are making you money so you can increase the bids on certain keywords? There's so much stuff you can do. And if you're doing banner ads, you can do the same thing. Can you target different demographics? Can you test more ads? Can you advertise in different places? So many different things you can do. And so it's an ongoing process, because the market will be changing as well. So what might have worked a few months ago might not be working now, or what worked a year ago might not be working now. And the same is true for conversion. So I hope I'm not going too far into all this stuff, but like conversion, you want to be testing your headline, you want to be testing your body copy, your design, what you're offering, what's your proof elements, what are your testimonials, what does your like payment page look like, how are you capturing information, what's your follow-up before people buy like, in terms of your headlines, in terms of your content of your emails. All that kind of stuff is an ongoing thing that you keep testing, and that's how you get to the stage which I'm about to talk about in a second. In fact, I'll get to customer base in just a second, but in terms of customer base, you want to think about how can I increase the average customer value? Because you work so hard to get a new customer in your business. How can you increase the value of that customer? And it's so important for so many reasons. And so that's where I come to this point, which is that success with paid advertising and joint ventures heavily depends on your average earnings per visitor, which earnings per click is shorthand that a lot of people use. Increase this and you can get more joint ventures and buy ads in more places. And so coming back to joint venture partners, for example, when they're thinking of who to promote, say they have a list and they're looking at different potential products to promote, one of the things they're going to think about your relationship with you, are you credible, all that kind of stuff, but they're also going to think about how much money are they going to make. And so if you can, say you have a £50 product and you have a conversion rate of 1%, that means your average earnings per click is 50p. And so that means the maximum you probably want to offer an affiliate, assuming you have no back end, is probably 0.4 pounds, so 40p. But imagine an affiliate, someone else comes along and they have a conversion rate of 2%, and so they make £1 per click. They can then offer joint venture partners 80p per click. And so if there's a joint venture partner that can send 100 clicks, they can either make, if I'm doing the maths right, £400 or £800 off of their promotion. So it's a no-brainer really for them, assuming they don't have a really good relationship with you, to go elsewhere. And so that's what gives you power, and that's why optimization is so important, because if you can maximize your conversion and maximize your customer base, that gives you the ability to pay more money. And same with ads. On these content networks where you have to bid for placing, on these ad networks where you have to bid for placing, if the other person's making £1 and you can only make 50p per visitor, you just can't afford, on a pay-per-click basis or on a CPI basis, cost per 1,000 impressions, you just can't afford to compete with them. And so in terms of scaling a business, again, this is kind of the most overlooked part, because everyone thinks traffic, traffic, traffic. But if assuming you already have at least a few customers, then start thinking about how else can you help people achieve the outcome that they came to you for in the first place. So think about why they came for you, like say it's weight loss. Is there anything else you can do to help them lose their weight? Is there another product you can offer? Like I was thinking about, could hypnosis be something that some of your customers might want to buy if they think that's going to help them to lose weight? Think about other ways that you can help them. And so that could also mean like coaching. That could perhaps they want an audio program instead of an ebook. When you start thinking about that, you'll come up with ideas that you haven't probably thought of when you start thinking from the customer's perspective. And then also, once you've got these customers, what else can you offer them? Do they have any other outcomes they might want? So, so a common business one, for example, people that run like, say, plumbing businesses and that kind of stuff, they'll want to know, how can I get more customers and clients for my plumbing business? Then if you're selling that information, then the next step would be, well, now that you're making money, how about you start teaching other plumbers how to make money, and I'll buy my stuff and I'll show you how to do it. So that's a kind of way of finding more ways to sell to your existing customer. Okay, so then to automate, which is, I guess, this whole 4-hour work week thing, all you need to do is replace yourself. And so and Tim Ferriss talks about this in his book. Basically, you want to kind of break down the things that you do within your business, and you'll be surprised that just about everything that you do is possible to replace. It's really hard to kind of accept that, because everyone, including myself, think that we're really special and there isn't anyone that could possibly do the job as well as us. But the truth is that there are people, and there's probably people that can do it a lot better. And so, I'm only about to number 4 on this list, so I still do plenty of stuff myself. I'm not trying to say I'm some guru or anything, but some of the easy stuff to start outsourcing or automate, which is the same thing. And it's an important point to think that automation doesn't have to mean some software that does everything for you. Automation can also just be having someone in place to do the work for you. So for example, I have 3 people working in the Philippines, and they're building a blog, a YouTube channel, and they're pretty much all doing that. That's like their thing, and that means I don't have to kind of create the content. I edit the content, but I don't have to create it, all that kind of stuff. So that's basically automated, but it's not software, but it is effectively automated. So yeah, you can outsource customer service, design, website development, content creation, and then this is where you really get to this is when you really start growing as a business. Marketing, when you start bringing people in to do your pay-per-click or whatever kind of marketing you're doing, getting a publicist to start getting you in magazines, all that kind of stuff, that's when you start growing. And then you bring on people to manage the people that are doing the work for you. Next step, bring on someone or teach your manager to start recruiting people, so you're not even the person going out and finding people. And then the next step is bring someone on to basically be your CEO. So like the example of this that I have is that Richard Branson, who we all know, multiple billion-pound business that he runs. I remember watching an interview, I can't remember if it was with him or someone that knew him, and he was saying that at one stage, I don't know if he's still doing this, but at one stage he spent 1 or 2 hours a week talking to his top management team, or basically the CEOs of his various businesses, just to check up, see how things are going, and that was all he did. He'd chill out on Necker Island, which is not a bad life, and literally that's what he did, a few hours on the phone. And the reason he did that is because he had the people in place. He effectively automated it, but he scaled it as well because he brought higher level people in, and that's how you kind of take it to that level. And there we go. So that's what I have to share today. Cheers.